American patriots. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Are you a responsible gun owner? If so, then you know the day will come that you're going to need a trusted and qualified gunsmith. When that day arrives, I want you to contact the man that I trust with my weapons, Mr. Delaney Jackson, owner of Jumpin, a gunsmith and appraisal. Besides being a professional gunsmith, Delaney is a true American patriot. And, a little trivia for you, he's also the manager and guitar player for country music legend Mr. Mark Chestnut. So when the time arrives, take your weapons to the man who treats my weapons like they're his own, my trusted friend, Mr. Delaney Jackson at Jumpin' Jack's Gunsmith and Appraisal. Contact information and website information is in the description of this video below. Thank you and God bless.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, American patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. A little bit of things to get out of the way quickly for all those that reached out to us last week. Thank you very much. I'm feeling a lot better, and we just leave it at that for now, but in the near future, we will discuss things that are happening with me, and also things that hopefully you will like that are happening with me as we move forward. 2022 and beyond, I think is the best way of putting it. I want to start tonight's show reading to you a letter that I got today from Senator Marsha Blackburn, and that's it right here. This is pretty damn amazing what she wrote to the Honorable Baraki, the Secretary of U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. All right. Now, before I read this, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a documentary that has taken place. It's through Fox News. And I believe it's also on Hulu with Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Is that correct? It's Hunter Biden?
Yeah,
we saw that on Hulu or we saw that on Fox?
No, we saw it on Fox Nation.
On Fox Nation is where it's airing at. Okay, excuse me for that. Basically talking about his use of crack cocaine and all the things that he's done with China and with Ukraine, and if you think back to all the things the Democrats and the left had to say about President Trump's family members, but yet they're silent on what all took place with not only Hunter, but now there's the connection between Hunter and his father, the current guy occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So this kind of makes sense after watching that documentary. So here we go. I write to express my grave concerns regarding the Department of Health and Human Services' recent announcement to distribute nearly $30 million in harm reduction grants through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. President Biden pushed through $6 trillion in funding for COVID relief. Yet less than 10 cents of every dollar went to COVID relief. Instead, they're going to take 30 million of this, and it's going to go towards this drug issue. So what's this about? It is my understanding that through this program, funds will be used for harm reduction vending machines. Harm reduction vending machines, which could be stocked with, among other things, self-smoking kits, supplies. It has been reported that HHS spokesman confirmed that these kits will provide pipes for users to smoke crack, cocaine, crystal meth, and any illicit substance. Government-funded drug paraphernalia is a slap in the face to the communities and first responders fighting against drugs flowing into our country from a wide open southern border. If this is the president's plan to address drug use, our nation is in serious trouble. The administration should be providing resources to entities that prevent drug abuse and to those that can prevent harm without providing drug paraphernalia. With this in mind, please provide answers to the following questions no later than March 1st, 2022. U.S. Code Title 21, Section 863 makes it unlawful for any person to sell or offer for sale drug paraphernalia, to use the mails or any other facility of interstate commerce to transport drug paraphernalia, or to import or export drug paraphernalia. It is the administration's authorized the distribution of pipes for individuals to smoke crack cocaine, crystal meth, and any other illicit substance. Is that what the administration is doing? Next, please provide a list of entities that apply for this grant and explain the requirements for entities to be eligible for the grant program. Sincerely, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. Wow. So we have a wide open border, as we all know, with drugs just pouring across, not to mention the gang members and the sex trafficking. And now we're going to have vending machines set up to give them clean pipes to smoke meth and crack. Every day, literally, I think to myself, am I living is this the Twilight Zone? What in the hell are we doing? The kids are going to have needles, clean needles for them to shoot up with. Why don't we just supply them with the fucking meth? Hell, why don't we have the Border Patrol compensate all the drugs they're getting and the crack cocaine and the meth and just set up a fucking meth lab wherever in these cities like New York and just give them a safe place to sit in and shoot up and watch cartoons. Moving on, Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security published a terrorist advisory system bulletin on Monday, warning of a heightened threat environment nationwide. In a statement, Secretary of Homeland Security said the National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin was fueled by multiple factors, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories and other forms of dis, and misinformation introduced and are amplified by foreign and domestic threat actors. The statement asserted that the threat actors aim to escalate society frictions, to sow discord and undermine public trust in government institutions, to encourage unrest, which could potentially inspire acts of violence. Wow, I think you're talking about Antifa and BLM, right? Let's continue on. Mass casualty attacks and other acts of targeted violence conducted by lone offenders and small groups acting on their ideology, beliefs, and our personal grievances pose an ongoing threat to the nation, the statement read. Department of Homeland Security said it is working with the FBI to share timely and accountable information and intelligence with the broadest audience possible. Well, I'm glad I'm sharing it with you all. Maybe they give me credit for this. Not. The bulletin went on to reiterate the Biden administration's effort to combat domestic terrorism with the first ever national strategy for countering domestic terrorism. Launched in June of last year, the strategy's four-pillared approach system to improve how domestic terrorism is defined, identified, and combated. The strategy's main aim is to target those with racist or anti-government ideology, which the administration says is exposed by domestic terrorists. The strategy says that experts in advance have shown today's domestic terrorists include those who expose radical or ethic, bigotry, and hatred, as well as anti-government and anti-authoritarian sentiment. However, anti-law enforcement ideologies, such as those imposed by Antifa and Black Lives Matter, were not mentioned. Wow, I'm sure that just shocked the living shit out of you. I'm sure you're all going, really? No, we all knew that was coming. They're on the bandwagon for Antifa and BLM. Just burn down shit, loot, set police cars on fire, attack innocent people in the streets, and have your law enforcement stand down and do nothing about it. We've all seen it happen. We've watched it happen live on our television screens. Racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, principally those who promote the superiority of the white race, and militant violent extremists are assessed as presenting the most persistent and lethal threats, the statement said. DHS remains committed to proactively sharing timely information and intelligence about the evolving threat environment with the American public. Secretary Mayorkas said in a statement, "We also remain committed to working with our partners across every level of government and in private sector to prevent all forms of terrorism and targeted violence, and to support law enforcement efforts to keep our communities safe." The first thing we do to make our communities safe would be for your ass to get fired. The NTAS bulletin outlines the key factors that have increased the volatility, unpredictability, and complexity of the current threat environment and highlights resources for individuals and communities to stay safe. Yes, folks, that is correct. If you're white, you're a threat to the nation. If you're an American patriot and you use those words, American patriot, you're a threat to the nation, according to their ideology. Not Antifa, not BLM, the people that we see physically doing the harm, the real domestic terrorist. If you belong to a militia group, 3%ers, for instance, oh, you're a domestic terrorist. If you don't kneel when the national anthem is played, you're bound to be a domestic terrorist. You see the craziness of this? More photos of Georgia governor candidate Stacey Abrams. You all know her, right? She wants to be the next governor of Georgia. She's already attempted it once and lost. More photos of her not wearing a mask in the presence of children have surfaced, potentially casting doubt on a spokesperson's claim that the candidates only rarely remove the mask visiting the school in question. Abrams received hefty backlash over the weekend after she posted a photo of herself unmasked, sitting in front of a large crowd of children at the school, all of whom are wearing masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. But she's not. She had visited Glenwood Elementary School outside of Atlanta last week. A spokesman later suggested that the photo was not representative of Abrams' time at the school visit, but later photos cast doubt on that assertion. Stacey's trusts science and supports masking in schools as it's the current CDC recommendation. Laura Wargo, a spokesman for Abrams, tweeted, she wore a mask to the event and removed it at the podium so she could be heard by students watching remotely and for photos, but only with folks who were masked. Yet photos first released by Outkick, the coverage suggested that Abrams kept her mask off for most of the visit to the school, while everybody else there wore masks. Stacey Abrams wants state government mask mandates for Georgians and their children. Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp tweeted over the weekend, but it looks like they won't apply when she's attending a photo op. Meanwhile, New York City Mayor Eric Adams recently appeared maskless in a restaurant, less than 2 weeks after he announced that the Big Apple will continue to require kids to wear masks everywhere on school grounds, with the apparent exception of mask breaks, despite a New York judge striking down the state's mask mandate. At the federal level, as well, prominent leaders like Dr. Anthony Fauci have been found out in public, sporting events, not wearing a mask. Images of maskless Democrat Representative Elisa Slotkin of Michigan, AOC, and Jamal Bowman of New York, Gavin Newsom of California, the governor, former President Barack Obama, and even the guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that is in charge at the moment, all prompting criticism for those online that are watching this train wreck unfold. I don't care where you stand on this COVID-19 bullshit, all right? Whether you believe it, you don't believe it, whether you think it's not true, whether you think it is true. I mean, I, for one, if you watch me and my videos and my show, you know that if you trust what I'm telling you, that it's real, because I've had COVID-19 twice, and the last time it damn near killed me. So here's what I am concerned about, and that is hypocrites. People that say you're not allowed to do something, and then they turn around and do what they told you you can't do. That's not leadership. That's a colossal failure. That is dictatorship. Taking away people's gun rights, for instance, which has happened in many countries, and taking away freedom of speech, which has happened in many countries, to include America. And we'll talk more about gun rights in the near future, because there's a lot of things that are happening right now in America that a lot of you don't know about. It's coming down. It's not going to be nice. So, listen, if you want me to wear a mask, damn it, you need to be wearing one too. But when people see our leaders, or supposedly leaders, out doing shit that they say you can't do, then it makes us wonder, is this all a farce? Smoke and mirrors? Why? I mean, just yesterday, all over the internet, go check it out. Barack Obama, over in Hawaii, no mask, and all the people around him are wearing masks. And Stacey Abrams doing the same thing. AOC doing the same thing. Hypocrites. That's what they are. Speaking of hypocrites, FBI Director Christopher Wray gave a speech at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in which he accused the Chinese government of conducting cyber attacks on the U.S. The FBI director, who is a longtime critic of China, claimed they found a recent uptick in spying activities while citing the results of 2,000 investigations conducted by the FBI. Well, son of a bitch, if you guys went and looked at Hunter Biden's laptop, maybe you would do your freaking job and take care of Hunter Biden and, his dad. Why? Why won't the Federal Bureau of Investigation go after Democrats? Why just Republicans and conservatives? And look, I don't give a shit what party you are. I don't care what color you are. If you're doing illegal shit, then they need to come down on you. But when you have a two-tier justice system, Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. And you guys don't get that shit. Went on to say, when we tally up what we see in our investigations, over 2,000 of which are focused on the Chinese government trying to steal our information or technology, there's just no country that presents a broader threat to our ideas, our innovation, and our economic security than China. The FBI director also spoke on the counter terror measures the FBI is taking to prevent these alleged cyber attacks. The Bureau, according to the director, is consistently opening new cases for counterintelligence operations. The Chinese government steals staggering volumes of information and causes deep, job-destroying damage across wide ranges of industry. So much so that, as you heard, we're constantly opening new cases to counter their intelligence operations about every 12 hours or so. Every 12 hours, a threat from the Chinese government comes into our cyber world. Ware concluded his speech by giving a warning about the dangers of these potential acts of industrial espionage. The harm of these Chinese government's economic espionage isn't just that its companies pull ahead based on illegitimately gotten technology, he stated. While they pull ahead, they push our companies and workers behind. The results of the FBI's investigation have not yet been published, but the Department of Justice is in the process of reviewing its own investigations into alleged cyber attacks from China. Again, FBI Director Christopher Wray. Hunter Biden, the president's son. Why don't y'all tune into Fox Nation and watch the documentary? And while you're at it, how about his laptop? We all know what's on it now. It's all out there on the internet for us to see. I've read some of the freaking emails. His daddy, Joe, was fully involved. Hell, he even admits he was involved with a quid pro quo over in Ukraine. That's where the real collusion took place. He admits that he had a company fire their person in charge. Not a company. Their legal system fire a prosecutor that was going after his son and withheld money from their country. How's he not in fucking prison? The same shit y'all accuse Trump for, yet you had no evidence, is happening right in front of you. And we, the people, are pissed off. You want to know why we don't trust the government and the FBI? Here's a prime example. Moving on, The campaign of Squad Representative Rashid Tlaib, Democrat, Michigan, has paid out $170,000 to an anti-Israel activist who has called Israel an apparent state and has called for defunding the police multiple times. Tlaib's campaign has paid $147,000 to a company called Upbrought Power LLC, a political consulting and advocacy firm run by Rashi Mabarka since March of 2020. Tlaib's leadership PAC, rooted in community leadership, which lists Mabarks as a treasurer, has paid Upbrought Power another $23,000 since October 2020, according to a Federal Elections Commission reviewing was done by Fox News Digital. Mabarki, a Palestinian Muslim American community activist, has a history of making anti-Israel statements online and calling for Israel's death. These are clashes. It's an ongoing occupation. They aren't evictions. They are forced explosions. Mabarki tweeted in May of last year, "This is a conflict. It's settler colonialism. It's ethnic cleansing. It's oppression. It's apparented. Say it loud. Say it clear. Palestinians will be free." She continued with the hashtag Save Shaki Sharar. Mabarki also attacked Democrat Representative Ted Duce of Florida, who is Jewish, in September last year over his remarks, pushing back against Tlaib, labeling Israel as a horrible state. "Oh, look, throwing another tantrum," the activist tweeted. He uses time to attack for underscoring facts also made by Human Rights Watch against Tlaib. Israel is being attacked from all sides, to include the United States government. He's flustered. How else does one rebuttal the truth? She claimed bullying and disparagement. Mabarki also publicly called for defunding the police multiple times, tweeted back in April that she believes the United States should abolish the police completely, and said in a July 2020 Facebook post that she is an abolitionist, which it comes to police. In two separate tweets from July 2020, she called for Orange County to defund the police. In July 2020, she tweeted out multiple pictures of her and Tlaib and wished her a happy birthday, saying, "So grateful that this soul is in all our lives." At Rashid Tlaib, always fighting for what's right, no matter the pushback. If it's for making even the smallest difference in someone's life, she always finds a way. I love being on the freedom side alongside with you. Happy birthday. Yeah. Does that get under your skin yet? It does me. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will be done by this Department of Justice and this FBI against her for a few reasons. Number one, she's a woman. Number two, she's a Democrat woman. And number three, drum roll please, she's Muslim. She's protected, along with Alejandro Omar. Senator Chuck Grassley commented on the latest Department of Justice criminal probe into business ties between the Biden family and America's greatest rival. Republican lawmakers requesting information about its probes into their business ties with China. While speaking on the Senate floor recently, Grassley stressed the Department of Justice has contradicted itself and downplayed its probes into Hunter Biden's suspected money laundering from China. I've asked serious ethical questions about the Justice Department, and the department so far has refused to answer any of them. Our letters have provided Attorney General Garland the opportunity to hit the ball right out of the park, and City doesn't even try to make a swing. Grassley pointed out that Hunter made millions of dollars from business ventures with China and state-owned companies. He added, White House officials appear to be covering up the Hunter Biden criminal case. What's the Biden Justice Department hiding? Asked the senator. This blatantly inconsistent treatment has cast a cloud over Hunter Biden's criminal case. Just imagine if this fact pattern had involved between President Trump and his sons. The media would have gone batshit crazy. Now, that's not what he said. He said they would have gone nuts. I like that word, batshit crazy. Kind of fits them. The Republican also denounced the secretary and suspected mishandling of Hunter Biden's case. He called for full transparency. Guess what, Senator? You're spitting in a fan. We've figured that out by now. The American people are rightly skeptical of how the Justice Department is handling the Hunter Biden criminal investigation, said Grassley. Secretary, and the lack of transparency will only increase the skepticism the American people have. Iowa lawmaker warned he and fellow GOP Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin will not stop doing good government oversight on this issue because the American people deserve answers. Once again, Department of Justice and FBI, Fox Nation has laid the case out for you in this documentary with all the evidence you need. It's all there. Furthermore, the laptop, the emails in the laptop, the photos in the laptop, it's all there. Treason has been committed on numerous levels now by Biden himself, with China, with Ukraine, and aiding and abetting the enemy by leaving billions of dollars worth of military equipment to the same people he surrendered to that attacked us on 9/11. Do your job, Department of Justice, FBI. Maybe, possibly, the American people will start respecting you again. Now, all that being said, the men and women of the FBI and the Department of Justice that are out there actually turning over the leaves and dotting the I's and doing the reports are doing an outstanding job. It's their leadership that has failed, and failed drastically. That being said, Trump had 4 years to fix that shit. He didn't fix it. Not only did he not fix it, but he added to the problem by putting people in positions that hated him. And I will never, ever understand that. I don't know why he did that. But it's over. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican, idiot, by the way, issued a scathing letter Tuesday accusing the Justice Department of taking a startling turn for the worse under the Biden administration and injecting left-wing political bias into its treatment of violent criminals. In a letter to the Department of Justice and Andrew Lugar, President Biden's nominee for Minnesota's highest-ranking federal prosecutor, McConnell, Republican Kentucky, blasted the U.S. Attorney's Office for seeking reduced sentences for rioters arrested during the 2020 George Floyd protest. One such person was Montez Terrell Lee Jr., who was convicted of the arson of a pawn shop that resulted in the death of one person, and he was sentenced to 10 years. He'd be out in 4. Political violence is a cancer in free society, as McConnell wrote. To use a parallel example, it seems almost insane to argue that a criminal who assaulted the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, with the explicit intention of obstructing Congress constitutional duties, should receive a lesser sentence than somebody else who trespassed on federal property at a different time just because he could. But in the case of Mr. Lee, the acting U.S. attorney in Minnesota seems to have reached the bizarre conclusion that his radical political motives somehow are excuse, rather than excavate what his wrongdoings are. He continued, "It is critically important for lawful authority to deter those who intimidate their political opponents through violence or threats. It is therefore shocking that the former acting U.S. attorney in Minnesota saw differently, presumably because he bears some sympathy for the cause Mr. Lee violently supported, and that is unacceptable." Senator Tom Cotton, Republican Arkansas, issued a similar letter Tuesday to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland demanding answers on Lee's prosecution. "Showing leniency towards a career criminal who committed murder is bad enough," Cotton wrote, "but justifying the murder because the career criminal shares the Biden administration's political policies is beyond the pale. The American people deserve to know whether leniency for left-wing murderers is the official policy of the Biden Department of Justice, or whether the travesty was a one-off. I assure you it wasn't." Senator Joseph Hockley, Republican Missouri, sent a similar letter to Garland last week, noting that the Department of Justice said in court filings before Lee's sentencing that the violent protests were a way for men and women to express themselves. There appear to have been many people who felt angry, frustrated, and disfranchised, and who were attempting, in many cases, in an unacceptably reckless and dangerous manner, to give voice to those feelings. Mr. Lee appears to be squarely in the latter category, the Department of Justice filings stated. And even the great American advocate for nonviolence and social justice, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., stated in an interview with CBS Mike Wallace in 1966, and you can see it here on YouTube, that we've got to see that a riot is the language of the unheard. In light of these circumstances, the analysis of the sentencing guidelines does not appear appropriate, Department of Justice concluded. The department asked for a downward variance of 12 years for Lee, much lower than the sentencing guidelines of up to 20 years. Hawley said the Department of Justice findings make it evidence that the toxic ideology of critical race theory is spread through the department. While you treat persons charged with petty offenses from the January 6th riot as hardened criminals, now even the most heinous offenses can be treated differently, as long as the person committing them is of the correct race, political motivation, and the crime can be connected to some progressive cause to celebrate. Once again, we're talking about an American justice system that is broken. At least 16 U.S. cities have witnessed record high homicide rates in 2021, while New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles saw notable homicide spikes. Who are the victims in these American cities? Do you know? I bet you can guess. New data provided by Freedom of Information Act request and analyzed by Fox News, for one, and myself, shows that Black males were overwhelmingly the number one demographic killed in most cities. In Chicago, which tallied the most homicides since 1996, 648 of the city's 797 homicide victims were Black. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I was born and raised, 105 of the city's 133 homicides were Black. In Columbus, Ohio, 135 of the city's 204 homicides were Black. In Louisville, Kentucky, 133 of the city's 197 homicide victims were, say it with me, Black. In St. Paul, Minnesota, 17 of the city's 38 homicides were, once again, drum roll please, it's shocking, Black. In Los Angeles, 397 people were killed in 2021, the most in a year since 2007. Hispanic males were the top demographic killed in LA last year, 183 of them. That stands for reason because, their state welcomes illegal immigrants and gang members and drug traffickers and sex traffickers with open arms. Last year, 183 in total. In a city that has a much larger Hispanic than Black population. Cortland Bridges of Varney, California, sat down with Fox News to talk about the loss of her 28-year-old daughter, Kay Thomas, who was shot and killed December 2020 after a sunset scooter ride on the Vents Beach boardwalk. It's an undescribable pain. It's a piercing pain that I don't think any mother should have to experience, she said. Bridges said Kay had an 8-year-old daughter and had just given birth to a son weeks before she was murdered. Kay and her husband were returning rented scooters to the rental shop when something went awry and Kay was shot. My daughter was not a gang member, Bridges said. Under no circumstances, Bridges said her entire family, an alleged killer's family, and the community all have been bearing the pain of Kay's murder. We all lose out. Nobody wins. My daughter, she's never coming back. Their parents, their families, the only difference is they still get phone calls. They can get visits. They can get letters. My daughter can't even call me because she's dead. Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon's office recently announced the arrest of 2 suspects in Kay Thomas' death. Isaiah Eugene Cardwell Jr., 28, and Jonathan Michael Singh, 30. Both face 1 count each of murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. Gascon's now has been asking the public for help arresting additional suspects involved and wrote in a statement, "My deepest condolences go out to the friends and family of Kay Thomas, as my heart breaks for her small children and her mother who has fought so much for justice." There is progress in Bridges' case, but Gaston and many other district attorneys have been under fire for what the city has called soft on crime, policies contributing to the nation's spike in homicide. He's a Democrat, by the way. Fox News spoke to Eric Sendwell, a prosecutor in Gaston's office and vice president of the Association for Deputy District Attorney in Los Angeles. Sendell is a registered Democrat and calls himself a socially liberal, but he says he blames Gaston's policies for LA's homicide and crime spike. One of the biggest drivers of crime in Los Angeles are guns and gangs right now. This district attorney has basically said we cannot prosecute people for gang crimes, and it's not interested in prosecuting people for gun crimes. And that has really led to this surge in homicides, Sandell said. He added that similar policies nationwide have affected people of color, primarily black men. Right now, the system, especially certain types of district attorneys, are siding with the criminal over the victim. In a news conference touting his accomplishments this past December, Gascon explained his philosophy of prosecuting LA's crime, saying a punishment-based approach did not serve LA well. Have begun to transform the criminal legal system in ways that holds people accountable while serving the residents of Los Angeles County with fairness and humanity, Gaston said. Bridges said she forgave her daughter's killers, but was concerned any additional suspect in the case could be tried as juveniles and face a minimum sentence for her daughter's murder. This case is horrible, and there's no accountability. The justice system has failed our children, Bridges said. I have peace because I know where my daughter's soul is. I have peace because I know the kind of person my daughter was. And I have peace because I can forgive. Madam, I can't even begin to express how horrible that is, and the pain and suffering that you and your family are going through. And sadly, you're not alone. It's happening all across this country. Pick it. Pick a major metropolitan city that's got a Democrat mayor. That's where you're going to find the most crimes. And with the exception of LA and some other places in California, it's all going to be black on black for the majority. Over there, it's going to be Hispanic. Either way, it's horrible. No one deserves to be murdered. It's innocent, just out doing whatever they do in their daily lives. Living life is difficult enough. And then right here in America, we have a political party that refuses to protect our border, to protect our law enforcement, to protect our military, to protect our veterans, to protect our elderly, our special needs. This is a shit show that's going on right now. Absolute travesty. Just a couple of months, I turned 60 years old. I've never seen anything like this before. I don't recognize the country that I once proudly served for. I don't know what this is. I do know that I don't like it. I do know that I no longer recognize the country I was born and raised in. And I do know that if Republicans and conservatives don't get off their dead ass and go vote at midterms, we're fucked. Stick a fork in it. We're done. That's the only way we stop this insanity that has taken place. And we must stop it. And we can stop it. But when I hear Republicans and conservatives say, oh, it doesn't matter. They're just going to rig the election. They're just going to steal the election like they did from Trump. I'm never going to vote again. Fuck this. No, fuck you if that's how you feel. People died for you to have the right to vote. People were maimed for life for you to have the right to vote. People, many, served with honor to defend this nation, this Constitution, this flag, for you to have the right to vote. So get off your ass come midterms and vote and bring people with you to vote. If we overwhelm them at the polls, they can cheat all they want. It will not matter. And sadly, a bunch of conservatives and Republicans don't get that shit. They just don't get it. And I don't get them. Anyhow, in the opening of my video tonight, as well as a video that I did yesterday for advertisement, you saw Jumpin' Jacks, Gunsmith, and Appraisal, and my good friend Delaney Jackson that owns it. The time will come, if it hasn't already, that you're going to need a qualified gunsmith that you can trust. And I'm here to tell you, you can trust this man, Delaney Jackson, to be an outstanding gunsmith and do proper appraisals and help you along the way with bettering what you do when it comes to our Second Amendment. In the description of this video and in the future as we go, you will find the contact information to reach out to Delaney with any of your weapon questions and to hire him for his services if you need to. One of the things that's difficult to do these days is find people that you can trust. It doesn't matter what they're doing, whether it's car repairs or getting your computer fixed or your iPhone or a new roof put on your house or your guns fixed. Having somebody that you can trust is the most important thing out there. I trust Jumpin' Jacks and Delaney Jackson with my weapons, and you should too. Please share that information. Go to his website, read all about him. He's a really cool dude. Besides being a great gunsmith, as you probably saw in the opening statement, that he's also a lead guitarist and manager for country music legend, Mr. Mark Chestnut. And that's a good group of people. I've had the honor to meet all of the band members and Mark himself many times. And that's where it's at. That's real down home American patriot people. That's what they are. And that's what Delaney Jackson is. Trust me. Folks, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here. For that, I am forever grateful. If you haven't already done so, please go check out DouglasDucote.com. You can learn a lot about me. You can learn about things that I can't share on most social media sites because, I'm not politically correct. And pay attention to some of the stuff we did on the border because it's all coming back again. And we'll be going back down there again soon and reporting on some more stuff and letting you know what's really happening in this country. The smoke and mirrors of CNN and MSNBC are damn near over. I'm sure you've all witnessed that. They're like falling all over themselves. They've dug a hole so deep, they're probably never going to get out of it, and that's a good thing. Not that Fox is any better, but there are a few people still left at Fox that I wouldn't mind sharing time with because they're decent. But then there's some out there that are no different than CNN or MSNBC. And that's shameful. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. If you don't know what Blue and Gold Star families are, or you don't know what Angel families are, please look that up, because they need our support and our prayers. Because this current administration doesn't give two shits about them. And they've made it very, very obvious. Take care, everyone. God bless you. And I'll see you Thursday night. Same bat station, same bat time for another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. Good night, everyone.